What's up, guys? It's Marcus and Luke here. This is the first video back for the year, and today we just want to talk about some of the differences between renting a truck, leasing a truck, and buying a truck to own it. Whether what stage you're at in your business and why you're having to buy another truck, lease another truck, rent another truck. Whether it's your operations are growing, you're trying to get more drivers, or you may have a truck that's down and you're trying to figure out the best and most cost-effective way to sub out that truck. If you're new and you plan to start a trucking business, it's not really something we would advise someone to go out and spend $50,000 on a brand new truck. Or if someone who doesn't have experience with trucks in general go out and buy a truck and it breaks down, now you're out more money.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, your best option really, if you're brand new in the business, is maybe renting a truck. And reason being is because the other option, the third option, is leasing, but it requires your business to be operating for 2 years prior to them allowing you to lease a truck. And those leases are long-term leases, usually for at least a year, maybe 2 or 3 years. So in those scenarios, you may be ruled out of those if you're brand new in business.
Now, this is actually a genuine question I have. Like, can you lease a truck from like a Volvo manufacturer? Like, is that how it works with a lease? Like, would you go lease that truck directly from the manufacturer or a dealership, like a big rig dealership, or would you go to a place like Enterprise, Ryder, and lease this truck? Like, you go to them and you're like, hey, I need a 6-month lease on this truck. They write it up, or maybe even longer than that. Are those options that you can take, to get a truck that way if you wanted to get a newer truck?
I'm not sure, honestly, about direct to the manufacturer. It's something we should research and find out. But yeah, the majority of the time they're doing long-term leases through Ryder or Penske or maybe Enterprise. Majority of the time it's those companies or companies like them that do leasing programs.
Because if you think about how a dealership is, you know what I mean? That you can go to a Honda dealership and you can go lease a brand new Accord for 3 years, and that's how you do it. I don't know if there was a similar process.
Yeah, I'm not sure actually. Yeah, with the manufacturers.
It'd even be worth it, with the way car prices are and all. But that, I mean, in the long run, if you're someone who, you have your experience, you get your authority started, you have your insurance, you're ready to go, and you don't own a truck, renting a truck probably would be the way to go until you have that time to where you can get a long-term lease on the truck, or you have the capital to buy a truck. But I mean, if you're just trying to get into this and, with all the startup costs associated with starting a business, to throw a truck in there and then to be having no return and to not have a return guaranteed to you if you're trying to do something like Amazon Relay or a similar business type where you'd be working load boards, it's kind of difficult to gauge how much money you would really need to offset that, and make it worthwhile to buy a truck like that in the beginning.
Yeah, and a lot of times too, like if you were trying to buy a truck and you don't have complete cash to pay for it, a lot of the financing companies that do commercial truck financing require 30-40% down or more. So you got to have a lot of capital if you're planning on buying a truck, and then you also need to have other capital set aside for repairs and maintenance and that sort of thing. So renting really is a viable option. You just really need to crunch your numbers, make sure that you understand the rental costs, what exactly they're charging you for, and break that down to the loads that you're planning on picking up to make sure that you can be profitable.
And a lot of people don't realize the back end of this. Like, yeah, you're going to go buy this new truck, but you need insurance on that truck, especially if it's a $50,000-$60,000 truck. And even if you go low end and you buy this truck cash, you're not required to have physical damage coverage on there, which is comp and collision. So if you go and buy a 2008 Kenworth, Peterbilt, just a box truck, what is it that you need for Amazon? Is it 26-footer? That's the minimum that they get?
Yeah, usually a 26-footer for box trucks, yep.
So I mean, even if you were to go buy a cheaper 26-footer box truck, it's your choice whether, if you buy it cash, it's your choice whether you insure that truck. But I mean, if you go and get a lease or you buy this truck and you finance it, it's going to be another line of insurance that the financing company is going to require you to have. So they're going to require that you actually insure that the physical truck itself, rather than just having auto liability, just having your cargo coverage. It will require you to have a whole nother line of insurance, which is called physical damage.
Yep. Same thing with rentals as well.
Yeah.
And the weird thing about rentals, where there's a lot of confusion, is that a lot of people, when they first get started in business or whatever the case may be, when you're doing a rental, it's usually week to week. So if you're going to, say, Penske or Enterprise or something, you're renting a truck, it's on a week to week basis. So a lot of times you're not going to get the same truck every week, or you may get the same truck, but if you do swap out that unit, you have to update your insurance and get that updated VIN number on file and scheduled onto your policy. And then another side of the rental unit piece is there's some confusion around it's called hired auto coverage, and it's whenever you say you have a unit that is scheduled on your policy that you own or lease, but it goes down for maintenance and repairs, but you can't afford to not continue to operate, so you go out and rent a truck
while that truck is down.
If it's going to be for a week or less, if you have hired auto coverage, usually that unit can be covered by that. You need to clarify with your insurance agent, but usually it can be covered that way. Now, if you're going to have that unit for a longer period of time, hired auto coverage is not going to cover you. You need to get that unit scheduled onto your policy, and it is going to cost more. You're going to have to put physical damage on it. It's going to have auto liability on it.
You have to perform you'd have to provide some sort of agreement from the person who's leasing that unit to you.
Yep, and they want to be required as additional insured on the policy, loss paid.
Almost always.
Almost always. And so, and whenever that happens, so that's where the confusion is how long are you having this unit, and then say that you're only going to have this unit for 2 days, but it's an additional unit. You're not replacing unit that's down. Then you kind of you have to schedule that unit on your policy so it's properly covered, because it's not replacing a unit that was covered on your policy. It's an additional exposure out there. So even though it's only for 2 or 3 days or a week, you still have to get that on your policy to have proper coverage, and then let your agent know to remove it when you've turned it back in.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, we've seen people successfully run Amazon relay business with renting trucks or even leasing trucks. They may own 2 of their trucks and they may be leasing 3 trucks. But the thing is these are people who have been, they know the business. They've been in logistics for 5 to 10 years or even longer, and they understand how to make the numbers work. They know how much they're going to spend on fuel, how much it costs to insure these trucks. Whereas if you plan to, go get these trucks and you expect to get these loads and something goes wrong, how long can you tread those expenses before you're not able to do it anymore, and then it ends up to where you're unable to run your business because you didn't go about acquiring trucks properly. And these are issues that a lot of people run into. So when looking at should you buy, I'd say if you're in a position where you have the capital to purchase and the back end of the business and you have the accounting worked out in a sense to where it makes sense for you to buy a truck, then most definitely. If you're new to the business and you don't really have you're just getting your foot in the door, it may not be the best idea to buy a truck that early in your
you may hate it. You may in 60 days. You might be 60 days deep running Amazon relay and realize that you absolutely hate it, and now you're stuck with a truck you have to sell, and you've invested all this money in insurance, getting your authority set up. So the cheaper option is definitely to rent, and it's a good way to get started in the business, and then you can always easily transition into purchasing.
I would say short term, it is cheaper to rent. Like if you're getting started and all of that, and you're trying to keep your costs low, upfront renting would be cheaper. But over the long term, if this is something you plan to do for 1 to 2 years, you'd probably want to acquire a truck. I mean, it wouldn't be very economical to run a business just on rentals, just on leases.
And you are skinnying up your profit margins with those rentals. Like you will be more profitable having your own unit, but then you're also taking on all the liability and exposure of maintenance and repairs and all of that, and the possibility of breaking down. And you're the one. And you have to
dish out a nice sum of cash to get that truck. And so
towing isn't cheap either.
It's not, no. But I mean that pretty much wraps that up, and the lease, that is something long term. A rental is something more short term. And if you're financing or buying cash, these are all the options that you have out in front of you. So
hope this helped you guys, and feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions regarding these topics. We'll put our contact information in the description below, and we look forward to talking to you guys next time.
You stop it? Hit stop.
It won't stop.
I feel like that was good.
If I could fucking stop it. It's flashing.